Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of In Conversation. I'm Jose Medrano, and today we're here with our first ever homegrown signing, James Sands. James, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Um, James, you were recently named Etihad Player of the Month for July. It's been a crazy month, but can you kind of talk us through how it's been from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's, definitely, as you said, it's been crazy, I think, for all of us. I really don't think anyone knew what to expect going down to Orlando. But I think all of us are just happy we did get some games in. And then for me personally, to win an award like that, means a lot. I've been working hard, and I was working hard over the quarantine, which was not easy. Just doing stuff on your own every day is not definitely not easy. So the winning that award validates it a little bit, but I gotta thank my family for voting for me. Gotta extended family, so they definitely got me those votes.
That's amazing. Can you tell us how the bubble was actually? Like, what was your routine like down there?
Yeah, I would say it was, I think it was pretty normal, pretty similar to a preseason for us. Not much going on outside of it. Obviously, we couldn't leave the bubble, but, while we were there, I think the focus was pretty much on training and on our games. And, as I said, it was like preseason, so I think, I felt used to it at least, and I think a lot of the other guys got used to it as well.
What would you do in your downtime? Obviously, there was a lot of that.
Yeah, definitely a lot of downtime. Joe brought his Xbox, so we had some good games. We started with FIFA, and then we actually moved to NHL after that. So that was a fun game that I hadn't played a lot. And then just other stuff. I trying to read a little bit more. I'm actually taking some classes at SNHU, so I had a lot of time to work on that. But just stuff I would do every day at home.
Nice. As far as the games on the field, can you talk us through how you saw the team growing and then obviously we got knocked out there, but just how did you see it from your end?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a tough start to the tournament for us, dropping the game to Philly and then Orlando. But I think we definitely learned some things about our team, and I think maybe it was for the best that we had to go through those games. And I think going through a tough moment like that is something that can help us in the long run and help us in playoffs later this year. And I think after we dropped the first two games, we got a pretty good response. We did well in the next two, and I think it's just at this point just being a little more consistent and trying to get to our 110% every game.
So now, back home, where you're actually from, can you tell us where you were raised, where you grew up, and how you kind of first got into soccer?
Yeah, so I'm from Rye, which is in Westchester County, and I've lived there my whole life. And it was just it's I think it's a great place to grow up. There was a lot of kids my age, so I was always playing sports with them, and we all lived kind of close. So just growing up in elementary school, I think we just it was always basketball on the playground, football, and then as time went on, I started to fall more in love with soccer. And I think my first travel team, my first coach was my dad. So I think having him as my coach, made me really love the game that much more. And as I said, I had some really good friends growing up who all played soccer. So it was just easy for me to kind of fall into that group.
Did your dad like soccer growing up, or was it kind of by chance that like everyone around you played?
I think he was, he at first he was just really interested in what I was interested in. It's funny actually. Both my dad and my mom never played soccer growing up, so he was kind of learning the game as we were, and he still wants to learn about it today. He'll ask me about the games and stuff, and even my mom too. She gets up early and watches Premier League Saturday morning. She's right there with me, so I think in that sense, it's been kind of cool that we're all we're learning the game together.
So in that time, MLS was around. What was it like for you as when you first got into it? What would you watch? What would you talk about with your friends, soccer wise?
Yeah, I think the obviously the two big teams when I was growing up with Barcelona, Real Madrid. I think one of those two were everyone's favorite teams. But when I think I must have been, 8 or 9 when NBC bought the Premier League, and then they just started showing all the games. So, I really, really fell in love with it then. And, I have some pretty good memories of, me, my brother, my mom, all getting up early to watch those games. So, I think that, just made me really fall in love with it.
And you mentioned your brother, twin brother.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like growing up? I'm sure you guys were super competitive. Are you guys similar? Just what was the dynamic growing up?
I think, a lot of our friends and, people close to us say we're pretty similar. I don't think we're similar, but that's just me. But, as twins, we were definitely competitive. Sometimes I would get called for something that he wasn't called for, and then, he would work really hard. And, there were some times where he was called for stuff that I wasn't called for. And, I think we really did just push each other. And, it was tough at times. I think especially at first when I signed with NYCFC, it was maybe a little tough for him, and I understand that. But I think now we're both a lot more supportive of each other, just because we've kind of taken separate paths. I think he's on a great path right now at Georgetown, and if he wants a career in soccer, he's more than talented enough to have it. And if he wants to do something else, he's got a Georgetown education. So, as I said, I think we're much more supportive now than maybe we were when we were younger.
At what point in your like career as a young kid did you think I'm going to be a professional? Like I think I could do this. Like when did you set that goal?
It was always, when you're a little kid, it's always your goal, but I think it's kind of a far off dream when you're little. You always just say you want to be professional, but it's not, it's something in the distance. And then I think, when I got to residency with U.S. Soccer, I think, it was the best 20, 30 players my age in the country who were living together. And, I think I started to stand out a bit in that group. And then I think I kind of realized that, it would be possible to play pro. And, it was not, when I did decide to make that jump to pro, it was not an easy decision for me, just because all my family had gone to college. And as an American kid, it's not such an easy thing. But, in the end, I think the coaches had to convince my parents more than me. But, I'm so grateful that they were on board with that too.
And you had, a member of our inaugural academy class pretty much. So many good memories for you in our academy and so many good achievements.
Yeah.
What kind of sticks out for you from those times?
I would say it was, the crowning achievement kind of my academy times was, beating Galaxy in the final, and scoring the winning PK. That was definitely special for me. But, and I look back on it now, I think it was just all the little trainings we had, the day-to-day stuff with, just all the talent we had, me, my brother, Gio, who's now at Dortmund, Joe, Justin, Tavon. I think it's, so rare that you have that many talented guys on one team. And, I think it was really the best for all of us.
And you're sort of the vet of that group that you just mentioned. What would you kind of give back to the academy and to them in terms of advice? What do you tend to say when people ask you for advice?
Yeah, I would say, it's a little bit tough because I'm still asking the older guys for advice too. But, the biggest thing that I've learned is just to be patient. For me personally, I waited a long time for, to start my first MLS game. It was, almost a year and a half. I went on loan. It just took a while. And, I think sometimes the academy kids come in and they just want to, all that success right away. But, it's important to be patient. And, I think the guys we have now, Justin, Joe, and Tavon are all, learning that pretty well. And, I think as long as you're just grinding every day, things will turn out well for you.
And while you still were in the academy, you came 2017 to preseason.
Mm-hmm.
And took that trip to Ecuador where you have, everyone knows how well you did.
Yeah.
From your point of view, can you tell us the story? Like what was going through your head? First of all, going to that preseason, being there with Patrick, with all our big players and then that game in Ecuador.
Yeah, it was, I was so excited to be going to preseason, because I knew all the good players that NYCFC had at the time. But I was also pretty nervous as well, just because I was the only academy kid for that first preseason. I think the preseasons we have now, we have 10 or 15 academy guys, so I think it's a little bit easier for them. So I was just nervous, and I remember my first day getting down to Jacksonville. I think we were the first guy I saw in the lobby was David, so that didn't really help my nerves. But they were all such genuine people. David, Andrea. So it really helped me just settle in, and I was pretty happy with myself because Patrick kept asking me to come to the next part of preseason. Initially it was only the first part in Jacksonville, but he invited me back, so I was really happy with that. And I think the biggest thing from that preseason was, as you said, Ecuador, and it was just a crazy experience for me. I was going from playing in front of 30, 40 people to 40,000 screaming fans. And I was just remember being so nervous, and that's not normal for me, just because I think when people watch me play a little bit, they say I'm pretty calm and pretty relaxed, but that's not at all how I felt in that game. But I got through it thanks to all my teammates, and it's such a good memory of mine to this day.
And you say everyone thinks you're very calm and composed, and I think you definitely are. Where did that come from? Like, have you always had that, or were there certain people or moments that kind of have instilled that in you?
Yeah, I think I've always had it a little bit. I don't think there's any one moment really for me. I think it's just important for my play on the field just to be calm, be relaxed. But I think I've started to learn, over time that, there is a time and a place where you have to get into people a little bit. You have to show a little more energy, and that's one of the big things I've been working on this season is, being relaxed, but also having that energy on the field.
And you finally made your debut in September 2017, coming on for Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
What did that moment mean for you?
Yeah, it meant so much, especially to come on for a guy who had helped me so much. Just for me to watch him every day in practice was just, so beneficial for my game. And then I think it was, kind of symbolic for me to come on for him a little bit. And you see what he's up to now. He's coaching Juventus, so it was definitely special for me. But on the flip side, I always have mixed feelings about that game because I remember coming on with a lead, and then we lost the lead. So I always feel a little bit bad about it. But I'm still proud of making my debut then.
What was it like for you to be playing every day with David, Andrea, being coached by Patrick, and then Dome later? Like, from your perspective, what were the things you were seeing? What did you really learn from all of them?
Yeah, I think all of them had their strengths, had their weaknesses, and for me it was just picking up on what I could use in my own game. For Andrea particularly, it was just how smooth he was. At his point in his career when he was at New York, he obviously wasn't in his prime or whatever, but just looking how effortless it was for him, even at the end of his career, was just so impressive to me. And then so that was that. And then David was another one, and he was a little more vocal than Andrea, but he was always, in my ear, just giving me little bits of advice and, helping me out. And, I could say similar things for Patrick and Dome just because of the levels they'd been at. And I think that's one of the best things for me that's happened to me at this club is just all the good role models I've been able to look up to.
And then in 2018, you went on loan to Louisville City. That seemed to be an important part in your development. What was that like? What did you take away from that? Was it important for you?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting thing for me, just because I wasn't there for 6 months. I was only there for 3 weeks, but just to make that step myself and say I'm going to do this on my own, and I'm going to be away from my family for a month or whatever, and I'm really going to take charge of my development. And I was lucky because I knew the coach there, and he was just starting as well, so he gave me an opportunity to play in those games. And then I think looking back on it, the big thing was just knowing I could play at the professional level. I had 3 really good games there, and it just gave me the confidence I needed to come back and make a couple of starts in MLS.
Then you came, like you said, came back starting. but you're also very versatile,
Mhm.
playing sometimes in defense, sometimes in midfield. What is that like for you? How do you see each position? Do you have more fun at a certain position?
Yeah, I think it's everyone always asks me what's my favorite, and I'm always so hesitant to answer that because I feel like sometimes if I say one, then maybe the coaches won't want to play me there. So that's always why I'm a little bit hesitant to answer that question. But I think being able to play both has helped me so much as a young player because it just gets me on the field more. And the biggest thing for young players is getting game time. And as I said, playing two positions just gives me double the chance of being on the field. And maybe in the future I'd like to solidify one, but at this point in time I'm happy doing both.
What's life been like for you now under Ronnie? Has there been any differences, big differences, or what is it like on the field?
Yeah, I think it's a little hard to say just because of how crazy the season has
Yeah.
been and how disjointed everything is. But I really, from the first day he got here, I really liked how intense and hands-on he is with all the players. He is very straightforward and lets you know exactly what he's thinking. So if you're playing well, you can know that he'll be supporting you, and if you're not doing so well, he'll let you know what you need to fix. So I think that's something as players and as me personally, I really appreciate that, and I think we're only going to get stronger as a team, and I think things are starting to click. They clicked at the end of the tournament a little bit, but I think we're really going to have a strong, second restart to the season.
As you said, we're now preparing for this phase one restart. What are you expecting?
I think the team, as I said before, I think we're really going to start, hitting the ground running. It was definitely some of the games were pretty frustrating down in Orlando, but it was a similar sort of thing with Dome. We did not do so well his first couple months, and then the second season we started tearing it up and we finished first. So I get a similar feeling with Ronnie that, we've had a little bit of a low patch, but I think, guys are ready to go, and, we want to start winning, and, we've got some ground to make up to get back to first place.
And what has it been like to play games in this new era? Like no fans, pretty just empty stadiums. What is that like for a player?
Yeah, it's pretty weird, especially the first couple down in Orlando. Not to mention at 9 a.m. in the morning, they were pretty weird. And it's hard sometimes. You feed off the fans' energy, and especially when we're at home, it gives you that little bit more to go for it. So I think it's just about adjusting to that. And I think another big thing with games nowadays is just how often they are. In the tournament, they were every 4 days. When the season kicks back up again, it's pretty much the same thing. So I think it's a bit of an adjustment for everybody just to be ready to go game after game.
How happy are you though to be able to still be playing, with everything that's going on?
Yeah, it's amazing, and my brother right now he's obviously in college, and it looks like they're going to be canceled. So I can tell how frustrating it is to have no games, and I felt similar to how he is feeling now during the quarantine. I just want to be back on the field playing. So on one hand, it's tough playing games that often, but it's so much better than the alternative option.
And you mentioned how fans feed you on the
Yeah.
field. We're preparing for a derby next week without fans.
Mhm.
How do you think it'll be different, and how are you guys preparing to sort of meet that energy level that you usually have from the fans?
Yeah, it's definitely different. Those derby games are always packed. It's probably the most attended game of the year for us. But I think it's just now it's got to come within our team. We have to get each other up for the game, and it's nice to have fans, but at the end of the day, it's 11v11 on the field, and we got to make sure that our 11 has more energy than their 11. And for me personally, it's my first it will be my first real derby game. So I'm just excited at this point, and I think everybody, including myself, will be ready to go.
Perfect. Well, we'll end on that. Good luck, James, and thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.